Rev up your engines!
Bowtie 409 says I got a 22 Tacoma, 5,000 miles. Is it ever okay to spray the engine compartment down with water to clean it? No, it isn't. Water and electricity don't go together, and that thing has more electronic crap on it. It would make your head spin. Now, it's sealed to some extent, right? You're driving in the rain, but you're not hosing it down, right? Never do something like that. There's no reason to clean a Toyota Tacoma that has 5,000 miles. Now, let's say you're an off-roader and you're getting it covered with mud. Well, then you're in a pickle, because you're either going to have to clean the mud off or live with the mud. And generally, the mud isn't going to hurt anything. You might just leave the mud on, right? Because you start spraying high-pressure water in there where all the computer modules are, all the electronics, the fuel injectors, the alternator. You can end up screwing things up. Engines aren't made to spray water in them. Back in the day, guys used to clean them and spray them down because they had a simple carburetor, and the distributor was electronic, and they'd put a plastic bag over the distributor and the spark plug wires and then spray away, because that was the only electronics. But modern cars, no. Don't even think about doing that. Spot the Dog says, my neighbor has a 2004 Escape. The automatic transmission is failing. The car only goes up to 40 miles an hour, and the transmission makes horrible noises, and there are no trouble codes displayed. Make sure that the transmission is the problem. You see, it's making transmission noise. Now, noises can be very hard to pinpoint, so watch my video, finding the source of car noises, Scotty, watch it on YouTube. If you can pinpoint it, it's the transmission, then odds are the transmission is indeed going out. They're very crappy transmissions in those things to begin with. Let's say it's not the transmission. What you might try first is, and I've seen this happen, it won't go over 40, right? Maybe the brakes are dragging, and if they drag, it can strain the transmission. Drive it around the block, then jack it up and try spinning all four wheels. If some of them are stuck, the brakes are stuck, and you could fix it by repairing the brakes. It could be some other problem that's straining the transmission too much, like the brakes are locking out. I've seen that happen. Now, unfortunately, if they all spin freely and then noises come from the tranny's just going out, and the Ford Escapes don't have the greatest transmissions in the world. It costs a lot of money to fix those things, especially if it's a hybrid. Andrew Lordy says, my Toyota Corolla blower fan intermittently doesn't work. It's got 330,000 kilometers, must be in Canada, and it doesn't always turn on. A few minutes driving, then it might turn on. I changed the heater resistor switch. Could it be the fan motor itself? Rarely do the resistors go out in Toyotas anyways, but here's something you can do. Start up the car and it's not blowing. Kick as hard as you can under the glove box, right? That jostles the fan motor. It starts blowing. You know the motor's going on. The fan motors are old-fashioned motors, and they have little bitty springs holding the electric motor, little contacts, and that's what makes it spin. As they age, those contacts wear out because they're physically touching. They're not like an alternator that's got electronics and magnetic fields. They're just a plain DC motor. They're very simple. But the brushes that have the contact, then eventually they wear out. And when they get thin, they don't work until you whack them. And then the spark jumps and they start spinning. So I can just about guarantee you need a blower motor. You can go to any auto parts store for an 02 Corolla and buy one of the Chinese-made replacement ones. They work perfectly fine, and they cost like 1/4 of what the Toyota dealer ones do. Quadrajet says, Scott, I got 2010 HHRSS. How do you know if the turbo's going bad? Currently has 56,000 miles. Now, it would cost a small fortune. Those turbos are very expensive. But if your gas mileage is the same as it always was, it's working good, and you got the regular acceleration, it's good. If it is starting to go out, often it will make noise. Turbocharger spins super fast. When those bearings start to go out, you're going to hear them rattling. Easy to tell. You can rev up the engine, get a little stethoscope, stick it on the turbo, you hear it rattling like mad. And of course, if it physically starts breaking down, it will generally trip codes for the turbocharger. You'll have a lack of turbo boost or whatever. So I don't think it's going to wear out at 56,000, but take my warning. Change your oil a lot, because the oil that lubricates your engine is the same oil that lubricates the turbo. Mike Vine says, love your stuff, Scotty. Did you ever show your family? We don't know much about it, but you're nice to know. Well, they're secretive. They don't want people to know. I got 2 sons, and one lives in Tennessee, and one lives in Rhode Island. I've got 3 grandkids on each side, a total of 6. So that's why I spend time in Tennessee and time in Rhode Island. One set of grandkids or the other set of grandkids. And my wife's a retired teacher. A lot of people know that, doing a little research. She loved teaching, but she couldn't take the baloney of teaching tests and all that nonsense that it entails. So she finally retired after ages. She misses the kids, but she doesn't miss the bureaucratic nonsense the school districts put out. So, what can you do? Lori Patton says, Scotty, what's a good first car for a teenage boy? Okay, a nice, big, strong one because they're probably going to wreck it. Both my sons wrecked the first cars that they had. They were both Toyotas, but they survived them both. The airbag went off in them and saved them, and the vehicles were and ended up in junkyards. So don't spend too much money on the first car. Look at the ones that have airbags that work good. Like I say, don't spend too much money because odds are they're probably going to wreck them. Teenage boys always wreck cars. Now, I didn't. I was a rarity. Truth be known, I spent most of my youth driving motorcycles, not cars. I had a car, but I drove the motorcycle more because it was a lot more fun. So, and luckily enough, I never wrecked any of them. Blew some of them up, but I didn't wreck them. No accidents. Just drove them too hard and the engines went. Well, as if Mercedes-Benz wasn't greedy enough, they added another pile of greed to their little situation. They're now charging $1,200 a year subscription so you can unlock the extra speed in one of their electric vehicles. I mean, the things are highly priced enough now, but to add insult to injury, if you want to make it go as fast as it possibly can, they say they're going to charge $1,200 a year subscription to allow you to access it. Kind of like the stuff that, Elon does with Tesla. They think these high ends, they can charge whatever they want, anytime they want. Well, I got news for you, Mercedes. You don't comprehend your own clientele. Rich people, yeah, they want a Mercedes to impress, right? But rich people ultimately are cheap. Once they buy something, they don't want to spend any money. I'm a mechanic. I've worked on their cars. They grumble about every nickel and dime that you charge them for fixing their Mercedes, and they're not going to be happy paying an additional $1,200 a year to access stuff that's already in the car. Maybe you start thinking a little bit more like Americans. It'll allow it to go 0 to 60 faster, have more horsepower. Hey, nonsense, Mercedes. You're just greedy. Jump on the green bandwagon. That's what they always do, And of course, you can't pull crap like that with truck companies. Trucking company wants a good, reliable truck, and if they start charging extra money to access it, they'd like, we'll go to your competitors, right? Well, I guess Mercedes feels they don't have any competitors because they're Mercedes, the luxury cars. Oh, well, if you can't afford us, go away. We don't want you. It's a big difference. One of them will go from 355 horsepower to 443 horsepower. A lot more power, right? It's already there. Hey, you paid enough money for the stupid vehicle. These Mercedes electric cars, they start at $102,310. And that's with an asterisk. You got to pay for transportation stuff on top of it, right? You're paying all this money and the cheap swine want $1,200 a year extra so you can access what's already in the vehicle. You might rethink this one, Mercedes. Your dwindling sales in the United States is one thing. But, you just do like old Elon and keep charging more and more for less and less. Guess what? You're going to lose your clientele, especially rich people. Once they have something, they don't want to spend money upkeeping it. You'd be better putting it into the price of the car and just leaving it at that, not charging every year where they're going to notice it. Serge says, has anyone successfully used one of these snow, mud, ice traction mats or devices? He's got a picture of it, and they're, those plastic mats with cleats on them. You stick them under your drive tires when you're stuck and drive up on them. Now, I've ordered one. Should come in a few days. It started snowing. I want to know, do you think it's going to work? Well, yeah, they work perfectly fine. You need traction and slipping. Back in the day when we were kids, we'd try to use old boards if they were lying around somewhere from an old fence if you got stuck, or if there were piles of leaves, throw them in the mud and try to get some traction. But those work great because they are usually about this long. You put them under the drive wheels and try to rock the car on them, and once you get them on the drive wheels, they get the traction and you can get going. They do work quite well. Now, you never heard of them because a lot of people, they don't want to carry stuff in the trunk and they don't even think about getting stuck somewhere. But, they are very handy for getting unstuck by yourself because you don't need anybody else. Now, if you're also worried about being stuck, get one of those tow ropes. They're nylon, they got a hook on each end, right? You ever get stuck, you got the rope, you can stick on a hook in your car. Somebody comes and says, can you help me? They got a hook on the back of their car, stick the hook on the back, and gradually they can pull you out of the hole. Those are real handy to have too. The tow straps are made out of nylon and they work quite well. You be prepared. That's my motto, because say, if you're ever stuck and you need it and you don't have it, good luck. I've used tow ropes to help people out of ditches. I had somebody help me out of a ditch once when I was working on cars. I was such a hurry, I backed up. I backed up in a ditch with my Vegas station wagon. It was sitting almost straight up. Then a guy came with a truck and we just put the hook on the front and pulled it right out of the hole, and away I went. So yeah, those things do work and they're very handy. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.